The kid who hacked NASA. In the late 1990s, long before data breaches and cyber attacks became commonplace, a teenager from South Florida made global headlines for an audacious feat. At just 15 years old, Jonathan James, known online by his handle, outsmarted, infiltrated some of the most secure government systems in the world, including those of NASA and the Department of Defense. His story is one of youthful ingenuity, ethical dilemmas, and the growing pains of a digital world not yet prepared for the risks of cyberspace. A curious mind. Jonathan James grew up in a typical suburban neighborhood in South Florida. By all accounts, he was an intelligent but restless teenager. He was fascinated by computers from an early age, captivated not just by their functionality but by their limitless potential. While most kids his age were content with video games, Jonathan was more interested in what made those games run. He spent hours tinkering with software, learning programming languages, and exploring the vast expanses of the early internet. His parents, concerned by his obsessive interest in computers, often tried to redirect his attention. But Jonathan's passion was undeniable. By the time he was in middle school, he had taught himself multiple programming languages and was experimenting with hacking tools. His motivations were not malicious. For Jonathan, hacking was a puzzle, a complex challenge that, once solved, offered a sense of accomplishment. "I wasn't doing it to cause harm," Jonathan would later say in an interview. "I just wanted to understand how things worked." Entering the underground. Jonathan's skills soon caught the attention of online communities dedicated to hacking. These forums, often hidden in the darker corners of the internet, were gathering places for like-minded individuals who shared tips, tools, and techniques. Jonathan, under his alias, outsmarted, quickly gained a reputation as a prodigy. His technical acumen, combined with his willingness to take risks, set him apart from other young hackers. It was around this time that Jonathan began exploring more challenging targets. He started with relatively harmless pranks, defacing websites and breaching small databases. But his curiosity soon led him to more significant challenges. He became fascinated with government systems, not out of any ideological drive, but simply because they represented the pinnacle of digital security. The NASA hack. In 1999, Jonathan set his sights on NASA. The space agency, a symbol of technological innovation and national pride, was a tempting target for any hacker. Jonathan's method was simple but effective. He exploited a known vulnerability in a server that allowed him to install a backdoor. Through this backdoor, he gained access to a network of computers at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Once inside, Jonathan was able to access software that controlled critical systems, including the International Space Station's ISS environment. The software, valued at over $1.7 million, regulated the temperature, humidity, and oxygen levels aboard the ISS. Jonathan didn't steal the software to sell it or cause harm. He downloaded it purely out of curiosity. The breach did not go unnoticed. NASA's security team detected unusual activity on their network and traced it back to Jonathan's IP address. In response, NASA was forced to shut down its systems for 21 days, costing the agency over $41,000 in recovery expenses. The fallout. The NASA hack was a wake-up call for the US government. If a teenager could breach one of the most secure agencies in the world, what did that say about the state of cybersecurity? Federal agencies, including the FBI, launched an investigation. Jonathan, aware that he was under scrutiny, tried to cover his tracks, but the digital breadcrumbs he left behind were too many. On January 26, 2000, federal agents raided Jonathan's home. The raid was a spectacle, with agents seizing computers, hard drives, and other electronics. Jonathan's parents were stunned. They knew their son was gifted with computers, but they had no idea the extent of his activities. Jonathan was arrested and charged with multiple counts of cybercrime. Because he was a minor, he was tried in juvenile court. He eventually pleaded guilty to 2 counts of juvenile delinquency. As part of his plea agreement, he was sentenced to 6 months of house arrest and probation. He was also banned from using computers for recreational purposes. The aftermath. The legal consequences of his actions weighed heavily on Jonathan. While he had avoided jail time, the restrictions placed on him were severe for someone whose life revolved around computers. He struggled to adjust, feeling isolated and misunderstood. The media attention only added to his troubles, painting him as a villain rather than a curious teenager who had made a mistake. Jonathan's story became a cautionary tale in the world of cybersecurity. His actions prompted government agencies to re-evaluate their digital defenses and invest more heavily in cybersecurity infrastructure. He had unintentionally exposed the vulnerabilities in a system that many believed to be impenetrable. A tragic ending. In the years that followed, Jonathan's life took a darker turn. In 2007, he was implicated in a massive cybercrime investigation, though he denied any involvement. Facing the possibility of severe legal consequences, Jonathan became increasingly despondent. On May 18, 2008, at the age of 24, Jonathan James took his own life. In a suicide note, he expressed his frustration with the legal system and the belief that he would never escape his past. His death was a tragic end to a life filled with promise and potential. The legacy of Jonathan James. Jonathan James' story remains one of the most compelling in the history of hacking. His actions, though illegal, highlighted the vulnerabilities in even the most secure systems. They also sparked important conversations about the ethics of hacking, the treatment of young offenders, and the need for better cybersecurity measures. In the years since Jonathan's death, the cybersecurity landscape has evolved significantly. Governments and corporations now invest billions of dollars annually to protect their digital assets. The lessons learned from cases like Jonathan's continue to shape the policies and practices of the industry. A lesson in curiosity and consequences. Jonathan James was a brilliant, curious, and ultimately tragic figure. His story is a reminder of the power of curiosity and the importance of ethical boundaries. It also serves as a warning about the consequences of stepping over those boundaries, even with the best of intentions. As the digital world continues to expand, the need for ethical hackers, those who use their skills to protect rather than exploit, has never been greater. Jonathan's legacy is a testament to the importance of nurturing talent and guiding it toward positive outcomes. In the end, Jonathan James was a pioneer, a prodigy, and a cautionary tale all rolled into one. His story will continue to resonate with future generations of hackers, cybersecurity experts, and anyone fascinated by the limitless possibilities of technology. Don't forget to subscribe.